Good evening. The date is Friday, January 30, 2026. From the frozen avenues of the Twin Cities to the contested waters of the Caribbean, the United States is navigating a week of profound consequence. We are witnessing a hardening of borders, a redefinition of alliances, and a deployment of military force that really challenges our traditional understanding of peace and war. Welcome to this special edition of The Deep Dive. I am your host.
And I am your expert analyst. Good evening. Tonight's dossier, it paints a picture of a nation in rapid transition. We're analyzing a convergence of events, domestic insurgency, hemisphere power projection, and high-stakes diplomatic coercion. It suggests the old rulebook hasn't just been discarded, it's being rewritten in real time.
Before we open the case files, we must address the intelligence architecture that powers tonight's briefing. This deep dive is presented by ProWave AI, but the raw intelligence is generated through Stylo News.
And for our listeners, it's important to understand that Stylo operates on a different fundamental premise than what you might be used to.
It does. It's the consumer-facing version of Stylo Intel Ops. That's the same software suite used by government agencies, by military command centers, for high-level decision-making.
It's a critical distinction. We are not aggregating opinions here. We are analyzing data vectors. Stylo aggregates over 250 sources across 20 languages, and it uses something called location AI bots.
And in plain terms, what does that mean?
Think of them as digital scouts. They map the pattern of life, the daily routines, the baseline activities of a region to instantly identify anomalies.
So you can see a protest turning into something more before the first glass is broken.
Precisamente. It delivers vector-based search results in under 60 seconds. It provides us with an intelligence briefing on par with that of a global decision maker.
Let us apply that very lens to the matter at hand. The title of tonight's brief is America's New Security, Global Leadership and a National Immigration Challenge. Our mission is to analyze the primary patterns of events over the last 2 weeks, identifying impacts at the local, national, and international levels. We begin with the most volatile theater of operation, the American Midwest.
The situation in Minneapolis and St. Paul has degraded significantly. What began as civil unrest has, according to the pattern analysis, shifted into something far more organized.
The facts on the ground are grim. While much of the nation battled these severe winter storms, the Twin Cities are experiencing a firestorm of political violence. The catalyst, it seems, was a pair of fatal confrontations involving federal agents.
That's correct. We have the confirmed shooting of Renee Nicole Good, a known activist and legal observer, by an agent of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And then, almost immediately following that, the shooting of Alex Pretty by Border Patrol agents.
These were the sparks.
The sparks, yes. But the resulting fire is what demands our attention now. The intelligence indicates a departure from the typical cycle of protest and dispersal. We're seeing a specific pattern of life anomaly.
Meaning?
The crowds aren't just gathering, they are maneuvering. And this shift is largely attributed to the rhetoric of one Kyle Wagner, a self-identified influencer and leader within the Antifa movement.
Wagner's name has surfaced repeatedly in the intelligence reports this week. His rhetoric, it has escalated well beyond standard anti-government sentiment. He's explicitly calling for what he terms a guerrilla war.
The terminology is specific and intentional. Wagner has been documented labeling federal agents as Nazi gunmen. And most alarmingly for domestic security, he is urging his followers to arm themselves for direct engagement.
This is not a call for civil disobedience.
No, it is a call for asymmetric warfare within an American city. And as of this broadcast, Wagner remains at large, evading a massive law enforcement manhunt.
The instability isn't just confined to the streets, is it? It has breached institutional sanctuaries. We have reports of a significant disruption at a church service in St. Paul, protesters targeting an ICE official who was attending worship.
Yes, and this incident has triggered a very complex legal standoff involving Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison.
And this is where local friction has national implications.
It is. Attorney General Ellison declined to prosecute the protesters, citing their First Amendment rights. This decision establishes a controversial precedent, the idea that political speech, even when disruptive to private religious observance, enjoys a level of immunity.
It signals to federal authorities that they can't rely on local prosecutors to enforce order.
Exactly.
And the federal response has been, equally controversial. We have evidence of information warfare tactics being deployed domestically.
Yes. The White House released a photograph of an arrested protester. A photograph that had been digitally altered to add tears.
The intent there seems to be a manipulation of public sentiment.
It creates a fog of war in the information space. On one side, you have state officials refusing to prosecute. On the other, the executive branch altering visual evidence.
And Stylo's sentiment analysis reflects this.
It reflects a deep polarization. One segment of the American population views this as a righteous defense of constitutional rights. The other sees a total breakdown of law and order that necessitates a military solution.
And that military solution is no longer theoretical. Active duty soldiers and military police are, at this moment, deploying to the region. President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act.
Which would be a historic escalation. The Insurrection Act allows the president to deploy military forces on U.S. soil to suppress civil disorder or rebellion. The pattern we are seeing, the armed rhetoric from Wagner, the refusal of local authorities to prosecute, and now the deployment of MPs, it suggests we are moving rapidly toward that threshold.
The federal government is signaling that if the state cannot maintain control,
The military will.
while federal forces attempt to secure order on the streets of St. Paul, the administration is projecting an even more aggressive definition of order across the Caribbean.
Yes, the strategy of homeland defense evidently does not stop at the Rio Grande.
We're seeing a profound shift in U.S. foreign policy, marked by the renaming of the Department of Defense back to the Department of War.
Names matter. This change, coupled with the 2026 National Defense Strategy, it signals the end of the nation-building era.
The focus is now strictly America first.
The objective is not to spread democracy, but to eliminate threats and secure resources. We're moving from multilateral peacekeeping to unilateral objective securing.
Nowhere is this clearer than in Operation Southern Spear and the situation in Venezuela. The headline is the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro on drug trafficking charges.
That's the headline. But the strategic undercurrent is the seizure of energy assets. The removal of Maduro was the tactical objective. The strategic objective was control of the oil.
And the United States is now asserting effective control over Venezuelan petroleum production.
It is. But here's the decision-maker insight that many mainstream reports are missing. President Trump has stated a readiness to sell this captured oil to China and Russia.
That strategy seems paradoxical on the surface, doesn't it? By selling oil to Beijing and Moscow, aren't we fueling the very competitors the Department of War identifies as threats?
It's a play for leverage, not denial. If the U.S. simply cut off the supply, China and Russia might be incentivized to intervene militarily.
I see.
By acting as the broker, by selling them the oil, the United States controls the tap. It turns a competitor's resource need into a dependency on a U.S. administration.
It keeps their economies running, but only with American permission.
You've got it.
Meanwhile, the physical security of the region is being tightened. CIA Director John Ratcliffe is on the ground in Caracas.
And in Ecuador, 10,000 troops have been deployed to combat drug gangs. It all aligns with the broader pattern. The FAA has issued warnings for the airspace over the Eastern Pacific and Latin America due to military activities and GPS interference.
The U.S. is essentially closing the hemisphere.
They are. Analysts are calling it the Donroe Doctrine, a modernized, militarized Monroe Doctrine. The message to the world is clear. The Western Hemisphere is closed for business, unless that business is conducted through Washington.
Let us pivot from the tropics to the Arctic Circle. If the Caribbean is being locked down, the Arctic is being pried open. The diplomatic standoff over Greenland has revealed a startling willingness to pressure our closest allies.
This was a very high-stakes negotiation that nearly fractured the NATO alliance. It all centered on President Trump's desire to acquire Greenland.
Not for its scenery, I take it.
No, for its strategic real estate, specifically for rare earth minerals and for the Golden Dome missile defense architecture.
And when Denmark and other European nations balked at the idea, the president didn't just issue a diplomatic protest.
No, he threatened a 10% tariff, rising to 25% on 8 European nations, including the UK, France, and Germany.
And that's the key tactical takeaway, isn't it? Why sanction France and Germany over a dispute with Denmark?
Because the president treated the European NATO members as a single economic bloc. He applied pressure to the major economies to force the smaller nation to the table. It was a calculated use of economic hard power against friendly nations to achieve the security objective.
And it appears to have worked. As of yesterday, the tariff threat was withdrawn.
It was. It followed meetings with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. A framework agreement has been reached.
So the tariffs were the leverage.
They were. The agreement likely does not transfer sovereignty of Greenland, but it grants the United States what it actually wanted: expanded basing rights, and the ability to build out that missile defense shield.
But the cost of that victory is trust.
It is. It signals to Europe that the U.S. views the Arctic as a critical theater for competition against Russia and China, and it is willing to hold the European economy hostage to secure its flank.
Speaking of Russia and China, we must address the global flashpoints. While the U.S. consolidates the Western Hemisphere, tensions elsewhere are spiking.
They are. The situation in Iran is deteriorating. In Tehran, the regime has unveiled a massive, provocative mural warning the U.S. against action.
And in response, the U.S. Navy has deployed heavy assets to the Persian Gulf.
It's classic gunboat diplomacy, but it's happening alongside U.S. support for anti-government protests within Iran. So the U.S. is squeezing the regime from the outside with the fleet and from the inside with civil unrest.
And in Ukraine, the conflict continues to evolve technologically. We have reports of Russia now using Starlink-enabled drones.
This is a significant development in hybrid warfare, a critical evolution.
Why so critical?
Because Starlink is civilian infrastructure. Seeing it integrated into Russian drone operations signals that the line between civilian tech and military weaponry has, well, evaporated. These drones allow for a level of command and control that was previously the domain of superpowers.
And we cannot ignore the Oreshnik missile strike near the Poland-NATO border.
That was a signal fire. Landing a missile that close to NATO territory is Russia probing the alliance's resolve. It's a game of brinkmanship.
A game that could easily spiral.
Very easily if a guidance system fails and a warhead crosses that border.
The Pentagon seems acutely aware of this compressed timeline. The U.S. Army has accelerated the deployment of the M1E3 Abrams tank by 5 years.
The acceleration is the story there. You do not speed up tank procurement by 5 years during peacetime. You do it when you anticipate near-term heavy conflict.
And there's also a new $100 million prize for drone swarm technology,
which confirms that the Pentagon views the future of combat as autonomous, massed, and cheap. They are racing to counter the very hybrid threats we're seeing emerge in Ukraine.
So as we step back and view the entire map from Minneapolis to Venezuela to Greenland, a distinct narrative emerges. What is the synthesis here?
The pattern indicates a U.S. administration that has abandoned the soft power approach of the last few decades. We're seeing a willingness to use hard power military boots in Minneapolis, naval fleets in Iran, and economic coercion, even against allies, to achieve rapid results.
The decision-maker perspective from Stylo suggests a focus on short-term dominance.
Yes, a prioritization of short-term national dominance and resource security over long-term alliance stability.
It poses a fundamental question about the future of global interaction, moving away from cooperative frameworks.
Precisely. And we must watch 3 specific indicators in the coming weeks. First, the legal fallout in Minneapolis. If the Insurrection Act is invoked, it changes the fabric of American domestic law.
Second,
the upcoming EU summits. Europe will be reassessing its reliance on the U.S. after the Greenland tariff scare. And third, the implementation of that Arctic security framework.
The chessboard has not just been reset. The pieces are being moved with a speed we have not seen in generations.
It is a volatile mix. The risk of miscalculation, whether by a protester in St. Paul or a pilot in the Persian Gulf, is higher than it has been in years.
We will continue to track these patterns as they develop. Before we sign off, a reminder to our listeners about the source of today's intelligence. The insights discussed here were generated by Stylo News.
Stylo News is available now as a mobile and computer application. It puts the power of open-source intelligence directly into your hands. You can customize personal briefs from hundreds of traditional sources and social media feeds, filtering out the noise to find the signal.
It allows you to do exactly what we have done tonight. Track global intelligence instantly. You can subscribe at www.stylonews.com. In an era of uncertainty, information is your most valuable asset. Don't just read the news. Track the patterns.
It is an essential tool for the informed citizen who wants to understand not just what is happening, but why it's happening.
And now, if I may step away from the news desk for a moment, thank you! Thank you for listening and for trusting us to guide you through these complex and often unsettling topics. We know the world feels heavy right now. Our goal is to bring some clarity.
Absolutely. We appreciate you spending this time with us. It's fascinating, sometimes terrifying, but always important work. We hope you found this deep dive as engaging as we did.
If there's a topic you want us to cover in a future deep dive, please let us know. And be sure to follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platforms.
We'll be watching the feeds.
We leave you with this thought to consider. As borders harden and alliances shift, we have to ask, is the era of global cooperation ending, or is it just being rewritten on new, stricter terms?
A question that will define the next decade.
Until next time, good night.